हेलो बच्चों। हमने डिस्कशन किया था इलेक्ट्रोलाइट्स के बारे में पिछले चैप्टर में, पिछले डिस्कशंस में, पिछले क्लासेस में, पिछले वीडियो में, और बफर के बारे में, पीएच के बारे में। आज हम डिस्कशंस करेंगे डिफ्यूजन के बारे में कि जो है फिजियोलॉजी में डिफ्यूजन क्यों पढ़ना है, बट डिफ्यूजन होता क्या है। तो कहता है डिफ्यूजन इज द प्रोसेस बाय विच ए गैस और सब्सटेंस इन ए सॉल्यूशंस एक्सपेंड। गैस हो और सब्सटेंसेस जो है वो क्या करता है, एक्सपेंड करता है बिकॉज ऑफ द motion of particles. So in the available volume, the gas and the substance expand to the fill of the available volume, and from high concentration to the low concentration. That means the total volume of a particle moving to area of the lower concentration is greater. That means the volume of gases or substances is high to move to the area of the lower concentration. That is, there is a net flux of solute particle from area of the high to the area of the low concentration. That is that term is called the net flux. This term, when the concentration move from the higher to the lower area, that process is called the net flux, where from the high concentration to the low concentration solution is moving. So the time required for equilibrium or diffusion is proportionate to the square of the diffusion distance. So what is the time required for the equilibrium? So when from the high concentration to the low concentration flowing of the solute or the molecules, that is taking the time, and the time required for the equilibrium, because if diffusion is there is some state of period when the both solution have the similar concentration of the solutes. So the time required for equilibrium by diffusion is proportional to the square of the diffusion distance. That means the distance, if greater is the distance, it will take more time for the equilibrium. The magnitude of the diffusion's tendency from one region to the another is directly proportional to the cross-section area across which diffusion is taking place, and the concentration gradient or chemical gradient. That means chemical gradient or concentration gradient. So which is differences in concentrations of the diffusing substances divided by the thickness of the boundary, that is called the Fick law of diffusion. Fick law, that is the net flux, and second is the called the Fick's law of diffusion. F-I-C-K-S Fick's law of diffusion means this law is denoted by the J बराबर minus dA means Dalton divided by delta C by delta X. That means the concentration diffusing substances divided by the thickness of the boundary, and that is called the Fick's law of diffusion. That means the thickness of boundary. Remember that when I was teaching about the electrolytes, that means हमने electrolytes हमको पढ़ाया था. This type, this is the capillaries, and this side of the concentration of the solution is there, and this is the cell membrane, and this side, this is called the cell, and concentration of sodium chlorine is lower, and here sodium concentration and chlorine concentration and SU concentration is high. So this boundary, this thickness, the capillaries, and between that there is a also concentration of sodium and chlorine. See the previous lecture on the electrolytes. So this boundary, the plasma membrane and then capillaries, so diffusing of the substance depend on the thickness of this membrane, and this is called the Fick's law of diffusion. Understand? Means that which is a difference in the concentration. This is higher concentration, this is lower concentration. That means it will take the diffusion from the high to the low concentration, and it depends on the thickness of the membrane. That is called the Fick's law of the diffusion. Here J is the rate of diffusion, and D is the diffusion coefficient, and A is the area, and dC divided by dx is the concentration gradient. Concentration gradient means high to the low. High to the low. That means concentration gradient. So when the considering movement of molecules from higher to the when considering movement of the molecules from higher to the lower, that is a cell on this cell membrane, dC divided by dx is negative. That means dC divided by dx is negative. So multiplying by minus dA gives a positive value. The permeability of the boundaries across which diffusion occur in the body vary, but diffusion is still a major force affecting the distributions of water and solute. I think you got the clearance. That means the last word, the major diffusion is a major forces diffusion is the major forces affecting the distribution of water and solutes. So if in the exam it's asked about the concentration gradient and chemical gradient, Fick's law of diffusion, and net flux, so here you learn three terms. Three terms means First is net flux when solid move from high concentration to the low concentration. Second term, you have learned about the concentration gradient or the chemical gradient. And third is you have learned Fick's law of diffusion. If questions asked in your exam about what is the Fick's law of diffusion and where it is applicable, the option is telling like that. If option is like that, where the Fick's law of diffusion is applicable, that you have the option like electrolytes. Second option is diffusion, and third option is osmosis, and none of the above. What is the answer? You should know. Diffusion. Understand? Now move to the next topic, that is called osmosis. What is the osmosis? That means when a substance is dissolved in water, the concentration of water molecule in the solution is less than that in pure water. That means that is the water and substance is dissolved in this one. The concentration of water molecule in the solution is less than another jar. Here it is pure water. This water is substances solutes. So water molecule in this solution and water molecule in these solutions, that means water molecules in this solution is lower compared to the pure water. Understand? Because the addition of the solute to water results in a solution that occupies a greater volume of these solutions of this water, and if the solutions is placed on one side of membrane that is permeable to water but not to the solute, and equal volume of water is placed on the other, water molecule diffuse down their concentrations chemical gradient into the solutions, and this process the diffusion of solvent molecule into a region in which there is a higher concentration of solute to which the membrane is impermeable is called osmosis. So here I give the example to understand to the osmosis process. That means this is the pure water, but we put some solutes inside this pure water, and this is the pure water. When these both water is bifurcated, or that means the membrane, plasma membrane is kept to here, plasma membrane is, this is plasma membrane. So both the water will be get the equilibrium in gradient concentration, and the solute of this water is not allowed to go this side, and this solution, this process is called the, that means the membrane is this, membrane is impermeable to the solute, and this process is called the osmosis. Understand what I am telling? That means the solutes are not allowed to pass from the one side to the another side by the membrane or the plasma membrane, and this called the osmosis. It is an important factor in physiologic process. It is important factor for the physiological process. So here, if this experiment can done within the same jar, suppose that this is the jar and this is the membrane, and this side pure water is there. That is a solute, and this is the pure water. So they only allow to the water this side, and then if the water level of both are equal, but in later the solute will get higher in water level compared to the pure water. Okay, suppose that this side of the pure water, this side is the pure water, and this side of solute, this is a plasma membrane. So this side they will higher in the volume, because the water coming from this side to this solutes, and this is the permeable only to the water, selectively permeable membrane, and this process is called the diffusion. This is called the diffusion. Sorry, osmosis, not diffusion. It is called the osmosis. Understand? So here, why this is important? Why this is important to study in physiologic process? The tendency for movement of solvent molecules to a region of the greater solute concentrations can be prevented by applying pressure to the more concentration solutions. If this is the flow of the water from this pure water to the solute solutions, this can be prevent. The necessary pressure should be applying here, so prevent the movement of this water to this side, and that is called the osmotic pressure. Osmotic pressure. Understand what I am telling here? Suppose that this side they are moving, this water are moving to the solute side, okay, and volume are increased, because in previous jar we have show you this is a pure water and this is a solute water, but later we have seen that the pure water volume is decreases and solute is increases. Why? Because this is a selectively permeable. If we have to prevent this, the movement of the water from this side to this side, and what the pressure is applying for this, preventing this movement of this water for this side, that is called the osmotic pressure. Understand? That means the tendency for movement of solvent molecule to region of greater solute concentration can be prevented by applying pressure to the more concentration solutions. The pressures necessary to prevent solvent migration is the osmotic pressure of the solutions. ठीक है, इतना समझे? यानी कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियर हो गया?